maybe even a kind of a Rotary mentor that can guide someone through the process. So my 2 cents.
And that's part of question one. Why is that orientation important, right? That initial, let's acclimate you to Rotary and to our club, and then figure out what that fit is. Do it early on. And again, I think anecdotally, that's why 50% of the people who leave within the first 3 years is they just didn't, that orientation and that initial interaction just was not engaging, and they lost interest.
Jeff?
Yeah.
I've never shared this with anyone, but I almost left Rotary after 3 weeks when I first joined back in 1997, because I did not see that I was making any difference. And that was just a cog in the wheel sort of. And the reason I'm mentioning this is that what made a difference was a direct request made of me. And rather than someone saying, so how would you like to be involved? The president asked me to be our membership chair. And, you know, I was 3 weeks into Rotary, but I took it on, and it made me feel like I was a part of things, and that was what kept me in.
For those of you who were not really that familiar with the Rotary Leadership Institute, this is a fantastic orientation for new members. Now, it won't be an orientation about the particular club, but orientation to Rotary, this will go into more detail than typically what happens at the club level, but does provide a lot of useful information. And I remember, and Bruce and Governor Tom, in the early years, and Jesse, in the early years of RLI, we assumed, or Rio Grande Academy, we assumed, because this is how it was couched, that it was going to be, you know, for the incoming presidents and incoming committee chairs and things like that. And when new members started coming, it was like a breath of fresh air. They learned a lot. They were engaging, so it wasn't just, you know, presidents-elect talking amongst themselves. Having new members come to RLI has added a lot of value to the experience that we have with Rotary Leadership Institute. So that's partly why we also promote it to new members as well. So going back to questions 2 and 3, either you personally or someone you know, was there a difference between why someone joined in the first place and why they're in it now? Have you noticed any kind of shift from the time that someone joined, and let's say that first year or so, to where you or that person is now? Any difference?
For me personally, there was a big difference. I joined because I was taking over someone's business who was part of Rotary, and they said, you need to do this, and it's networking and all of that. And really, the making a difference and participating in community projects and learning more about the community is really what inspired me and what made it really a place I wanted to be, versus sort of this is what you need to do. So it became much more about that for me.
Yeah. Any other personal experiences? Because we have a number of president-elect in this RLI, as you're thinking about your upcoming year.
I think Bob raised his hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
But he was on mute, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
There you go. Well, I think for me, what keeps me in is the friendships and the networking, and well, along with the service projects, because we do a lot of service projects with kids, and that's what one of the things I'm interested in.
And was that your interest when you first joined as well, or did it kind of morph over time?
I think the way I chose between the 3 clubs in Las Cruces was more the one that was doing kid-oriented projects.
Great, thank you.
Jeff, can I share my story?
Sure.
I joined Rotary because I was invited by a former wing commander that I worked for here in Albuquerque back in the 80s. And bumped into him. I was getting ready to retire from the Air Force, and then was working at the Air Base wing, and happened to bump into this guy whose house I rented for 3 years in Washington, D.C. when we were stationed there. And he says, I'd like to have you come and be an honorary member and just bring our club up to speed on what's happening at the base, because the base, being the number one, having the total number, the greatest number of people working, as at any one area in the whole area. So I said, sure, I'd like to do that. But that's all I knew. So I just came in supposedly I was supposed to come once a quarter and give them an update on what was going on at the base. Well, I came out and did my first one. Then I came the next week and I liked what I saw, and I just kind of hung around and started selling tickets and things, and for fundraisers and stuff like that, because nobody ever really explained to me what my job was supposed to be as an honorary. They only really expected to see me once a quarter, but I was there almost every meeting, and I really enjoyed it. And so when I left the Air Force, I said, I don't want to leave Rotary. So I went back and I said, can I become an active member? And they said, sure. So I didn't, I just showed up because I was invited, and it was just after a few months, I said, hey, this is really something. I enjoyed this very much, and so eventually I became a full-time member. That was in 2000.
So again, we have a number of incoming presidents on this RLI, and kudos to Bob Roush for reaching out to all of you. So if you were interviewing a potential member last year, and you determined that they would be a great fit, and they determined they would be a great fit, and they joined, and you knew back then this is what their niche is, don't assume it's going to be their niche 4 or 5 years from now. Things change, interests change, Rotary changes, right? So that's why question 3 is not always the same answer as question 2. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If you assume, I can pretty much guarantee you people are going to leave, because you in a leadership role are not learning about your membership and what they're interested in now to make sure that the club is addressing those needs and interests. Does that ring true? Do you understand what I'm getting at here? And in this module, there is an attachment which we're not going to take a look at because it's extremely long, but they have a membership survey in here, and Rotary International has a very similar one. It's very long. So I wouldn't necessarily say go ahead and take verbatim that very long survey and survey the membership. But I would say it's really important, especially if you're an incoming president, to get a sense of the membership, because that's going to be fresh. It's as we are right now, this is what people are interested in. And again, what you will find typically is when you look at what they're interested in, it may be different than what it was a few years ago because things change. So we're going to take a look at kind of the value of doing surveys like this. Before we get into that, any of you either participated in or helped design a membership survey for your club?
Yeah.
I used parts of the RI membership survey then when I, shortly after I became club president, then just to get a feel for, what people were thinking, what they liked, didn't like about Rotary. And so it was very insightful.
Yeah.
Jeff, I have some input as well. I've done the same at 2 different clubs. At one point, the last time I actually just Googled Rotary membership surveys, and there was a slew of samples from other clubs that people could use.
Yeah. 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 I think there's a lot of value in taking a look at what others have done. Why reinvent the wheel? just on a personal note, the one that RI has is just very long. And my personal experience with surveys is that if you talk about ways to disengage people. If you have a survey that's way too long, people are just going to say, you know what, forget this.
Yep.
Just not going to waste my time. Okay, so a few things we're going to take a look at. Let's see. Let me go over here first. So this is a document that RI puts out called Enhancing the Club Experience. And what I like about this, even though it has the survey in it, it's got kind of these stages of thinking about the survey, and I think it would be more worthwhile for us to kind of go over this than the actual details of a survey. Before we do, one language note. And I've been involved in surveys as part of my job for about 35 years. Surveying customers, surveying employees. For years, those surveys were referred to as satisfaction surveys. And you'll still often hear that used today. But satisfaction and engagement are not the same thing. And I'm glad that Rotary Leadership Institute calls this engaging members. Does anyone have an idea or notion of what the difference between satisfaction and engagement are?
Engagement means you're actually working on it.
Say that one more time.
Engagement means you're actually working and invested in it.
Yes, there's an investment. So if I'm doing a survey and I'm not really looking at engagement, but I'm looking at satisfaction, the respondents may say, I like something, but they may not be invested. Is that kind of what you were saying, Patrick?
Yes.
Okay.
I think George was going to say something too.
I was just thinking that engaged sounded more involved than the alternative.
Yep. And that is the point. So a number of years ago, the survey meisters realized that satisfaction was not the bar we were looking for. It's good to be satisfied, but not quite. We'd like something bigger. And so the whole notion of engagement came out of that to say, we want to understand that investment. You know, I'm willing to go above and beyond because I'm engaged. I may be satisfied with Comcast, but I can pretty much guarantee you I'm not engaged with Comcast. Yeah. So in terms of the surveys, then you really want to be looking at engagement. If you couch the questions in terms of satisfaction, that's better than nothing, but it may not give you the full picture of levels of engagement. So these are the 6 kind of steps to effectively using a survey. Introduce it. So it's always nice for people to know why they're getting it. And again, something to think about if you're going to do a survey, again, for those of you who are incoming presidents, you'd like to get a pretty high response rate. So if you have 40 members and you get 5 responses, then maybe you didn't introduce the survey that well. So people were like, why am I going to bother with this? You really want a high percentage of respondents, because the more data you have, the more it's actionable and you understand. So the introduction is really important. Then of course you want to distribute it. And as you will learn from Kathy and Renee, the survey you all are going to get about this is not going to be a hard copy because we're not meeting in person, and it's not going to be mailed to you. It's going to be electronically sent to you. So you'll get it electronically. Then, of course, you need to analyze the data. And I should say you, it's whoever is going to be doing this, the membership committee, the board of the club. Take your time. Don't just look at what the majority of the people say, look at what the minority say. We're not just here to serve the majority of the club, we're here to serve all of the members of the club. And we talked about diversity earlier. If you have a diverse club, which is a strength, you're going to get all sorts of different results, which is good, but it requires more analysis. Present the results. What better opportunity for a club assembly to take the time during a meeting and go over the results with them. And now, it is usually helpful if people feel sensitive that they be anonymous. So you're not saying, here's what Sunny thinks. It's, here's how we as a club think. No names, right? So just be cognizant of that. But present the results. Show the club, hey, look at this. 50% of us are really focused on service projects. That's great. The other 50% are interested in other things which are also good for a Rotary Club to be involved in. So in terms of how we go forward, we're going to make sure that we kind of satisfy both groups. We'll have a number of service projects for 50% that like that, and the ones who like fellowship will have plenty of social activities for them and so on. So it gives you as an incoming leader a sense of how to develop programs for the club that the membership's going to be interested in based on what they convey back. Okay, and then steps 5 and 6 are the ones that we traditionally do poorly at. I'm not going to say fail, but we don't do well. We don't do well on follow-ups and action plans, and actually taking the results of the survey or any data and translating it into, here's what we're going to do in response to the feedback we got, right? We just don't do a good job of that. There are exceptions. Here's the problem. If we don't make an action plan and we don't take action, why ask the survey in the first place? If we're not going to do something with it, it's the worst thing to do with a survey is to just leave it hanging and say, thank you very much for your input. On we go. So you presidents-elect, be thinking about action plans and what you're going to do with the survey responses and all the other data that you have to consider. So this is a nice kind of process to think about when doing something like a member survey. Questions? Thoughts? Again, those of you who've been involved at the club level, does this register with you?
Jeff, this is Ann. You said shorter is better. Any thoughts on what an ideal number of questions or length might be? Or what you've seen be successful in clubs?
In almost all instances, Ann, I try to live by the one-page rule, and not one page with a micro font. If you know, simple is usually effective, and if I can't get actionable feedback in one page, then maybe it's too complicated a survey.
Yeah.
And again, there are exceptions, but I typically try to live by a one-page rule. And yes, it can be one page on both sides, but I just want to try to keep it about that level. It's interesting if for those of you who go see your doctors or go to the hospital, God forbid, you may get in the mail a lengthy survey, 5 or 6 pages in the mail, which again, very few people respond, but then you may get the postcard, like the snapshot, just give us a sense of how this visit went. The shorter ones always get the higher response rates because it's more convenient, it's easier. So tendency is short, but getting to the point, really getting to the point.
I think what Kathy did was really good. And she took just a section of it and we filled it out. It was like, real short.
Yeah. And
we did it at the meeting. So we handed it in. So we had a high response rate and it gave a clearer picture.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, no dessert unless they filled out the questionnaire.
That's great.
And Jeff, I'd like to add, when I teach for Department of Energy, whether we're on the road or we teach here in Albuquerque, our feedback sheet is one page. I think it's less than 10 questions.
Yeah.
No more than 10. And of course, they have no choice but to fill it out because we won't give them a certificate of graduation unless they do.
So when I did a member survey before I was club president, I did ask those questions 2 and 3 in the module. Why did you join and why are you still here? I didn't phrase it like that, but I wanted to understand this kind of morphing. The notion that people may join for a different reason, I found that very interesting, and I wanted to kind of understand what that evolution looked like. I was more focused on why they're members now, because my responsibility is to make sure that they're engaged now. But that why did you join was very interesting and informative, and it did help me kind of understand that there is often this evolution or this journey that people go through in Rotary that kind of moves them in different directions. I found that very interesting. Any other questions or comments about the survey tool? And typically, I mean, clubs don't need to do a survey every year. Again, people may get tired of doing a survey every year, but I would say once every 3 or 4 years is probably a good idea to get that feedback from the club. Plus, you may have new members. You certainly want to get their feedback, but I would say every 3 or 4 years is a good idea for there to be a membership survey.
This is Don.
Yes.
What you've got on the screen is excellent. How do I get a copy of that?
I will send Kathy the link to this file. She'll send it out with other stuff, but I will send her this link. Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions or comments about that? Again, it's the best, you know, I don't want to assume. I'd rather know. I'd rather be informed for me to make decisions. I don't want to assume. We talked about leadership styles before. Authoritative leaders may just think they know. I want to know. And the only way I'm going to know is to get the feedback from the membership. I like to think about it as the club is serving the community. But if I'm in a leadership role in the club, I'm serving the membership. And I want to know. And I want them to be open and honest, which is another reason why it's usually a good idea for it to be anonymous, because if it's not, they may not be as open and honest. And I want to make sure I'm getting as clear a picture as possible about what people like about what we're doing, what they don't like about what we're doing, what they want to change, all of that. So that's very important feedback to me and the board.
Jeff?
Yeah.
We haven't talked about this overtly, but it occurs to me that one of the characteristics of effective leaders is a willingness to hear bad news.
Yeah. Yes.
That
Yes.
The more we keep the lines of communication open, the more people have an opportunity to be heard, the more they're willing to stick around and help work on something rather than just depart.
Right.
So if you think of it as whatever is always empowering, then you have room to hear whatever people have to say.
Right. And I can pretty much guarantee you, no matter how effective and successful your clubs are, the membership is always going to come up with ways that can be better. And that's the value of their input.
Sure.
And that's also the value of having new people come in, because they're fresh, they're not biased. They're not saying, well, gee, 3 years ago we tried this, it didn't work. They're fresh. So you're going to get a lot of kind of outside the box thinking about what clubs can do from the people that are new, whether they were transferring from another club or just new to Rotary. And also, what type of action plan would you have if you think everything is perfect, right? Not much of an action plan. Stay the course is not, stay the course is a key action for the things that are going well. It's not a key action for the things that are not going well.
Right.
Excellent point, Sonny. Anything else? There's one other document that I wanted to show that I thought had some useful information before we move on. Okay. So if you can see this, this is, let's see what this document is. The Membership Experience Feedback Survey. So this is the results of a Rotary International survey. I was not a recipient of this survey, I don't believe, but this is great. And again, this is across the board, but there's very interesting findings in here. Since 2011-12, the top reasons for joining and staying are local service and friendship. We found that to be true, right, Bruce?
Yeah.
Number 1 and number 2. Everything else was below, and it wasn't even close. Now, again, what I found interesting was the 4 or 5 people who said they were in it for something else. I wanted to make sure that they were engaged too. So again, it wasn't just what did 90% say? What about the other 10%? But local service and friendship or fellowship, number 1 and number 2, we saw the same thing. And when we pulled the data apart, we looked at new members that had been for 10, 20 years. We looked at gender, all sorts of different factors. There were some differences, but for the most part, every demographic, local service and friendship. And as I think it was Tom Lindsay pointed out earlier, Zoom is fine for club meetings, but you're not going to have the same fellowship online that you do in person. It's just you're not. So we understand that, and we take care of each other and we check in with each other. It's just not the same as being together physically, but understood. Let's see, just a few others I wanted to go over here. Oh yeah.
While you're doing that, if you would resend this link out, it has a lot of those forms on it.
Yes, I will send both of these links to Kathy Fuller. Thank you. The top reasons for leaving are cost and time constraints, club environment and culture, and unmet expectations. There it is in a nutshell. 50% within 3 years leave. Cost and time constraints, things happen. But club environment and culture. So again, I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at the screen, but I'm visioning you incoming presidents. You and your club leadership have a lot to do to have a club environment and culture that's conducive to the membership being happy and engaged. So that's something that, I don't want to say you control it, but you have a lot of input into what that environment and culture is that people are going to feel comfortable and engaged in. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? It's huge. And again, someone mentioned, I think it was the gentleman from Las Cruces, each club has a different personality, and that may be part of why you may join a particular club. But if you're going to keep the members engaged, you want to understand what they're looking for and make sure that you've got that environment and culture kind of receptive and very favorable for people to be engaged in. If not, they're just going to lose interest. It's just the nature of the business.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
You just made me think. Los Lunas Club is relatively small, but we might have 20 people at a meeting, and we have tables that generally seat like 4 or 5 people. And this, we all tend to sit with our friends with the same 4 or 5 people, and it's a very friendly club, but I know that you could inadvertently, people could think that they're not with a group, and so it made me think of what you're talking about.
Yeah, we can get a little cliquey. And think about what the experience of a potential member visiting is going to think.
Yeah.
And even if they don't say anything, it's going to leave an impression. Like, am I going to be welcome here? Yeah.
One light way to do that is when we do meet in person, at our club, we have a fine, and just fine them $1. Their fine is if they're sitting at the same table.
Yeah. Yep. Find your way to the culture you want. There's a motto for you.
And it helps the club at the same time.
Absolutely. Yep. Again, a significant value in new members. The old guard may not complain about everyone sitting in the same table all the time, but the new members likely would. And that's why it's important to listen to them too, even if there's just a few of them. In fact, I would say listen to them more, even though there's just a few of them. And then look at this last one, unmet expectations. It pains me when, and by the way, one of the things that I did the year I was president is we did a survey when people said they were leaving. I wanted to know why, especially if it was something on the club's end. If they left because they moved or they were going to move to another place for a job, that's fine. But if there was something about us, I definitely wanted to know. And if I ever heard unmet expectations, it really upset me because that was on us. We didn't have that initial vetting. We didn't understand. We didn't do our due diligence, if you will. So it happens quite often. And that's another one that we should control that. We don't want people to leave with unmet expectations. We just don't. So comments, questions about that?
Yeah, as an incoming president, I'm really looking forward to really engaging with the new members as they come in and kind of actually hoping to be a guide for them to get involved right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of times you could see a new member coming in, hey, welcome to the club. Now see you later.
Yeah.
Here's a sheet of committees that we're on. Why don't you fill this out and give it back to me at your earliest convenience? That never happens, you know. So it's got to be kind of a one-on-one thing, I think, and that's kind of one of the. And this is a good point to be making because now I'm all excited about engaging the new members as they come in and getting them engaged for day one, maybe even when they're visiting. So thanks.
Oh, not a problem. And so that's fantastic. I would not include, if you're going to develop a survey, something like what's wrong with your current president.
That's not useful. I would like to add one quick thing, Jeff, if I may.
Sure.
You know, public image has traditionally been focused on how people outside the club think about us. But recently, Rotary International has encouraged us to think about our image in two ways. One is what people outside are thinking of us, and the other is how we ourselves are experiencing Rotary. So as you pay attention through surveys or other forms of engagement, think about what the Rotary experience is for each of your members. Are they really fulfilled? Are they satisfied? Are they having a great time? Are they doing what they want to be doing? Are they experiencing making a difference? It's the flip side of brand.
Yeah, excellent point. We have just a few minutes left. This last bullet to me is also very compelling. Sunny is in a way the exception, based on what she told us earlier about after 3 weeks she was thinking of leaving. Thankfully, she did not. But a lot of people will if they find after a month or so it's just not a fit for them. The first contact, orientation, and mentoring processes are key to increasing our appeal, setting the right expectations, and fostering loyalty. By the way, loyalty and engagement are not exactly the same, but they're both kind of one level above satisfaction. Someone had mentioned it earlier, get them engaged immediately. If you wait, or I shouldn't say you, if the club waits, it may be too late.
Mm-hmm.
That they're already thinking, well, is this something that I want to be engaged with? Am I going to invest my time? There's so many other things going on in my life right now. So that getting them early is so important. And the fact that the statistic is within 3 years, it's 50% that leave. We don't want to wait 3 years to engage people. We want to engage them right off the bat, if at all possible. Yeah.
I guess
So
there's
yes.
one other point we might make here, and that is that even if people are going to leave Rotary, we want to have them leave as friends of Rotary. So taking good care of people and honoring who they are and what they're up to is critical. What we don't want is to have those 50% who leave within 3 years go tell people what an awful organization Rotary is. It's boring and it doesn't get anything done, whatever. So it matters. Taking care of people at every stage and wherever they are matters greatly for our world.
Yeah. And again, just going back to that last bullet, unmet expectations is just the worst. It really, it affected me significantly if anyone ever said that. Because we want to know really quickly if, what are your expectations? What specifically are you looking for in our club? Let's make sure that it's a good fit. Sometimes it's not, but the notion that someone went through the trouble of joining and then it didn't meet their expectations, that's a double negative for me. So any other questions or comments? We've got a few minutes before we get to Renee's section.
So I'll just say from the getting engaged right away, my second year of Rotary will end in October. So I'm brand new at this. I'm already president-elect, but I ended up on the board in about 3 months of joining, and that's what got me to stay. Is I was instantly pulled in, found a spot for me, and here I am. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
There are going to be people that take the initiative, but again, we don't want to assume that people are going to take the initiative. We should find those niches and help them, mentorship and match and all of that. Anything else?
Jeff, I just need to apologize. I had to leave your meeting for about 5 minutes. A garter snake came into the living room. And so I had to chase him back outside.
Man.
That's a good excuse.
So I hope I don't have to repeat the whole course.
And
I will just
get the homework.
That's great. Wow, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. Renee?
Thanks so much, Jeff. A great presentation, great conversation with all of us then. So I'm going to just stick my nose in here just because I can. And George, I'm glad it wasn't a rattlesnake.
Yeah, people tell me those are all up on the mesa, and I'm down in the bosque, so I've never seen one down here.
Okay, Renee.
All right, ready? Okay, I am ready. Well, I'm going to, first of all, I want everybody to get up, stand up, turn around, stretch a little bit because we're getting close to the end. And, the year before last, my club was a fun club, so we got to throw a little of that fun in there too. And then, nobody's getting up? Okay. Feel free to stand up and stretch or anything. It doesn't distract me too much. I think it's more important that you can do what you've got to do to retain a little bit more. So I'm going to bring to you today creating service projects. And this is close to my heart, and I left, or I'm planning to leave TRC, and we're doing our virtual meetings now. And I had built 2 or 3 pretty huge projects over the 5 years I was there. So, it was rounding somebody up to take over those and all of that. And kind of same thing with the White Sands Club. I had a few things going on, and I understand other than Wine Fest, they're pretty much doing all of them still, so it's awesome. How you go about your service projects will make all the difference in the world. So in your materials, the goals will be I want you to learn to identify and plan and organize and even implement a service project in your club. We'll get down, so start thinking about some of yours because that's my favorite part, is learning what other clubs are doing. And if we do something similar, I know the year that I took part one, Jesse was there, and I think Sonny was in my class, and Kathy and Jesse were still teaching, and some of Tom, who was here earlier. So I learned in that class something that helped us get one of our White Sands Club projects moving along. So that's what I hope for you. So why don't you just imagine that you had been appointed to chair to a committee. Who was that said that they went right in and were put on the board? And it happens quite often. I was one of them. A municipal clerk is my classification. And so I'm a city clerk, and I've been to 3 or 4 municipalities already. And what do they tell the clerk to do? Minutes. So then my second meeting, they made me the secretary. So I can relate. So let's just imagine we're all appointed the chair to a committee to develop a new service project for your Rotary Club. So give me some ideas on where you think you might get started.
I would look and see what the community needs.
See what the community needs, yes.
And maybe if that's a community service that could serve a larger group.
Yes. See if there's another organization, you say?
No, serve a larger group instead of just
Oh, yes.
one.
And how about other groups? Are there any of you that pull in other groups to assist with your service projects?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, TRC has the Boys and Girls Club we work very close with. And also, you know, their founder is our state representative now, so she had to give it all over. But she's also a Rotarian, so we coordinate it all. It helps to build your projects. So in your handouts, there is a little bit of outlines on steps you should take. And one is determine the need. How do you approach the club and make a plan, or with just an idea? You know, when you approach the club, give me some ideas on how some of you might handle that.
Well, Renee, in addition to ascertaining community needs, it's also useful to ascertain club member passions. You know,
Absolutely.
Sometimes you get great ideas from your club members because they can see the need and they're eager to do something about it.
So that's so true. So do you generally pull in the membership first, or do you go to the board to see if it's feasible at all? Has anybody been in that position yet?
We haven't been in that position, but usually we go to the board first.
Yep, that works. I've seen it done both ways, and I think if you go to the members first, then you probably are better off if you pull in more of the members to present to the board that might have a passion. But I've seen, how many of you have seen somebody come up with an idea and it just flops?
Yeah.
I see a couple of heads shaking. Yes, that happens. So buy-in is very important, and we said buy-in a few different sessions. So then establish your buy-in is next, and gain your support of the club members and the community. You need to have your time, costs, the level of involvement that your club will be in, and the size of the project. Those are all important factors. And how does it fit with any other activities? There's in your materials, one of the handouts on SP1, and I believe it's page 38, has some service project questions. Be sure to utilize those. They come in so handy. I know I have myself, and I have recommended to some others who called me asking. But those, I'm trying to get to that page, and I guess I could pull it up here. Do you have that document pulled up on the participant list, Jeff, that you could share?
What I have is the participant guide. Is that what you need?
Yeah, it's page 37 on the guide. There you go. Wonderful. There we are. Perfect. So there you go. These questions will help you tremendously. I'm not going to say them one at a time, but you know, it's just another tool for you to use and to determine some things like, is it going to be good publicity? Is there a sore spot somewhere? The club politics, you know, we have office politics. You also have some club, even though we're not supposed to put the politics in there. You never know who, when you're new to a club, will be receptive to something new. I know, and different clubs are completely different. I'll tell you that much, because even board meetings were handled differently from the laid back but yet very structured club that I came from in White Sands. And so some of your members on the project, that's also very important. Let's get into the next page has, you know, you need to establish your procedures. So what are you going to use to identify that need in your community? You know, you also need to look at finances and how many of you have an actual, it's a good plug to put in there, a strategic plan. Or, you know, a business plan type of thing. I didn't see any hands. Let me see. Well, if you do, if you don't, I highly recommend it. And Jeff is a fantastic instructor, and I'm sure he'd probably be more than willing to guide you through it. It's an important process, especially for the president-elect. Once you go through a project, you know, you've got to evaluate it. If it's been done before, for example, we had a golf tournament that they didn't do for about 5 years. Go back and evaluate the success or why that wasn't a success for that project. And we were able to bring a new golf tournament back with new Rotarians running it, one of which was a player and a golf enthusiast, and apparently previously we didn't have any. So, you know, I evaluate what may have happened in the past, and you still might be able to revamp it. Last year they revamped it, and we're so excited to build it again this year. You know, Lord willing, if we could ever gather and have a tournament. So you got to look at your community resources. I know that I believe it was Patrick that mentioned that. What steps do you need, you know, to move forward? Going through with fundraising. So let's touch on fundraising. How many fundraisers would you guys say you have a year for your club? We'll just take it one by one.
Yeah.
Don's lit up. He says one.
And it's a golf tournament, and we're trying to figure out how to change to do something else rather than one big event.
And so does your golf tournament bring in enough to fund anything in your?
Oh yes, we've had one charity after another that's benefited, but we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. by having
Right.
a big fundraiser a year. We want to do it with 2 or 3 or 4.
And how about anybody else?
One fundraiser I've been wanting to attend and haven't yet is Camino Real's tequila tasting. So that's on my to-do list here.
Absolutely. Hey, I've been telling them I was going to come too.
You're always welcome to join us.
Thanks. I'll get Pat to be my designated driver. Or
Right.
pay.
Jessica, and what about you, Rotaract Club? Have you started fundraisers? And Louisa? Or are you listening to learn?
Yeah, so like for the past years it's been varying a lot. Sometimes we have very constant fundraisers, sometimes we don't. For this year, we started already with a raffle. So we had our first fundraiser this year. And let's see how it goes. Hopefully we can do less, but the ones that have like more impact rather than doing like a lot.
Sure. And what was the fundraiser?
So we made a raffle for a TV. Now that we have our members, like meeting virtually, I thought it was going to be like a great idea just to, do everything virtually, collect the money through a Cash App application or Venmo. So it was a raffle for actually the activities that we have today.
Great. Well, hopefully you'll learn a little bit more today about some ideas, because that's one of the biggest important parts.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Jessica, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, yes. Actually, we have a little problem for the COVID because we need to move all the projects to online. And actually, many of the projects is from the school, and we need to working on that because the semester move out all the class for online. So we figured out about the community service.
Great. Well, I'm sure you have a lot of good clubs in El Paso that are helping you and sponsoring you, and lean on them because they're there to help you as well. And all the rest of us now that you have other contacts.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
What's that?
Yeah, repeat that, please.
Jessica, you said something and we didn't catch it.
Oh, I say thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, our pleasure.
Of course. So let's talk about yes, Sunny.
I wonder if we could put Matthew on the spot for a moment to talk.
I would be happy to.
The Rotary Club of El Paso's pop-up projects.
Oh, yes.
That's brand new. I think it's within the last 2 weeks with our president, Yasser Murga, just came up with the idea of what are called pop-up projects. One of them, off the top of my head, is writing notes to people in nursing homes, and it's called the Pen Pal Project. And that's going to be very exciting. It's he's got a lot of ideas for, I think he's got 3 or 4 so far that are going. And they're just little projects that we could do on the side without, that you could do individually within the club. And I think it's going to be a great success. And y'all know, of course, about the El Paso Wine Fest. And this last year, we also started a fundraiser in association with the Sun Bowl Association to do a Topgolf event. And we had our first Topgolf event this last December. And it was a huge success. I mean, tons of people came and played golf and socialized. And so we got a lot going on in El Paso, that's for sure, especially with these new pop-up projects that we're all excited about.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
I'm going to be asking our whole district to help compile a list of both service projects and fundraising events that can be done safely and virtually so that we can steal from one another and start to build a wealth of creativity that we haven't had yet.
Absolutely. Is anybody, How about the Albuquerque clubs that do the big fancy dinners, and they charge a lot of money, where I can see in my area here, we would not get away with it. But a smaller scale might work, you know? Anybody else? How about, go ahead, George.
In Los Lunas, we started a pancake breakfast, which got canceled this year because of the virus. But the breakfast, you sell tickets, I've $10 a piece for adults. But the big money came from getting businesses to sponsor, and then you could advertise the businesses as a sponsor, and there were, gold, silver, and bronze sponsorship. And so that is something they just started that's been working very well.
That's wonderful. How many of you have heard of the Pumpkin Chunkin'? Past district governors have. Maybe a couple of past district governors can tell us what that's all about.
Is there anyone on this call who has participated in the Pumpkin Chunkin'?
Anybody?
Yeah, I have. Bruce.
Bruce.
Yeah. When I was president of our club, in a couple, back about 4 or 5 years ago, we took about a half a dozen of us there for the Pumpkin Chunkin', and we parked cars for them.
Wow.
And then we all stayed around for the Pumpkin Chunkin' and watched them shoot pumpkins and other things. Some of those things went like half a mile. It was incredible.
Wow.
But,
that's what I hear. I haven't made it yet, but that Estancia Club does that's one of their fundraisers, and they put a lot of work into it, and they really, make it a benefit to them.
Yep, and it's very well attended as well.
And Bruce, that sounds like something you could actually do while social distancing, since it's outdoors. What do you think?
Possibly. The crowd was pretty big when we were up there, and I imagine it still is.
Yeah.
But
well, something to look forward to.
It might be possible. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
West El Paso does 2 fundraisers. One is the 4th of July parade.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah, which we, of course, had to cancel this year. And the other is a joint fundraising golf tournament with First Tee.
Great. And, there's a lot of Rotary clubs that do golf tournaments. And I often, my first thought when we were revamping ours is, all right, so let's send it out and get some ideas. That's the best part about Rotary, is we're not on our own, and somebody else has done something before us, hopefully. So let's talk about the differences between like a community service project and just purely a fundraising event. Give me some ideas on your thoughts on what's the difference between a community service project and a fundraising event. Anyone?
Fundraisers raising money for the club. Service project is for doing things in the community that those funds are used for.
They can kind of connect. You may do a fundraiser for a certain organization or activity in your community.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you do a golf tournament and you designate those funds for a specific project, it really opens it up for those sponsors. Yep. What else? Can those two be combined?
Yeah, I think that's what Peg's saying.
Absolutely. So let's move on with there's a couple of documents that that if you look on the very first page, I'm kind of switching you around, keeping it lively here. If you look on the first page of this section, which is actually page 34. In the materials are 4 different links that you can go to. Can I share my page, Jeff? Is that possible? I think I can go to them if I can. Yes. Right here. There we go. I had it right on top and then I moved it. I apologize. There we go. All right. So if you look at the first one, can you see the communities in action?
No.
No.
We're seeing your service project question still.
There we go. So the first link, which is the first open square there on your materials list, is Communities in Action. And this is a great guide to effective projects. So I highly recommend that you peruse that in your spare time. And, you know, bring a committee in if you are the fundraising chair and such. You can see they talk about everything we just discussed: assessing the situation, choosing a project, making a plan, and taking action. And it's important to evaluate your success, and they add additional forms and resources for you. So that's one. And then the next one, the community assessment tools, is right along the lines with the membership survey that Jeff was discussing. And that has a nice little service project compatibility, and it touches on a lot of different things that you can do. If you do a membership survey, some of the items that you may want to include. So again, here's a sample survey that has to do with more like projects. It has built-in questions that you can add to your own. Look at your assets. So it has such good tool. The last one was the 6 areas of focus, and that helps you for the grant portion of it. And I was listening when Doreen was talking about foundation grants, and you know, your service project and where you are in the planning of that will be so important if you do go for a foundation grant or any of the other grants. So let's see, how much time do I have? Till 1:10. Still about 20 minutes?
Yes, 20 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
I think that I think we can just do this without going into rooms. If you go to your last page there, the page 35. Oh, page, no, I'm sorry, it was 38. Pull up page 38. Oops. How did I do that? There we go. Okay. Can you see my service projects here?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a different page for them because they have a participant guide, not a facilitator guide. It's SP2, insert SP2 is what.
Here it is.
There it is.
All right, so we'll just kind of go over it together and kind of work it out together, but I expect input, and then we should get done just a little bit quicker. So take a minute and peruse through this project. And I'll just give you a minute to read through it a little bit. Is that big enough? Can you see it?
Yep.
This could be any community USA or any community New Mexico, just about.
It's true.
Especially our smaller communities.
It certainly could.
What's that, Sunny?
Harassing older people, huh?
Maybe.
I resemble that remark.
So give me some ideas on, you know, how you could go about solving this problem.
One
So
thing
you-
would be to talk with the teens, have some kind of a teen thing to see what they would like to see in their community.
Absolutely. And what do you get when you bring those teens in?
Craziness.
A little buy-in, maybe?
Buy-in, yeah.
Oh, that
Hey,
too.
A
and
little
if
help.
anybody, yeah, if any community needs that, Peg is your person to come in and talk to your teens. She's really good at that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What else is going to help you collaborate to maybe put something together for this service project?
Actually see what's available in your town to begin with.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And you'll have to work with the city on it since the city owns either the land or the school system for the school building.
Yes. So, you know, and that's all the more reason to have, when was the last time you invited a Rotarian to be a member from City Hall? I've forever been pushing that. I think our district needs to look at municipal clerks because there's actually only 2 in the whole district that are Rotarians. And it's part of our ethics, the whole thing on service and the whole 4-way test is basically our ethics. So just another plug in there. So there's membership and recruitment. How about, so what kind of fundraisers would you do with kids?
So Clovis last year, we just did a fundraiser like this where we called it Painting a Better Story. And what we did is we provided free art supplies to kids and had them paint pictures. And then we auctioned all of those paintings off at an event. And we raised about $15,000 doing it.
Wow.
And it was great. The kids loved it. Their parents loved it. It was something for them to do. And it got a lot of community involvement. Our goal this year was to have the actual art classes that the schools do it, but with school being a big question mark, we're having to reevaluate what we're going to do.
Well, yeah, it's a little harder now. The life has changed as we know it. That is for sure. I'm still working from home, and everybody in the office is ready to go back. And I was just like, hey, I'm good. I'm getting more done here than I do there. So, but I'm like one of the very few in the whole office that thinks that way. So now I'm the weird one.
So do the Rotaractors
All right.
all have any ideas about fundraising events for teens?
So for the activities we've done or like the fundraisers, well, to this big scale, I can't really think about anything. I think we really need inspiration from all of you to think about like big activities. We normally do like small things as we have like a lot of help from the university. We thought one time we wanted to do like a I don't know how to call it, like an afternoon, music afternoons. You have like people come in and um, have food or have like listen to music and have like friends that actually play music and all that to as a fundraiser. We haven't had the opportunity to do it, but I think that will be like a great idea. Also, some um, now that we are um, social distancing and everything, we thought about having some language classes. For example, I know a little bit of Mandarin, and then I have some friends that know Portuguese and some friends that know a little bit of French. So we thought about, having these classes for donations for people that actually want to learn the language. So that is something that we are kind of like doing right now. It's of course like small scale because everyone's busy with their own stuff, but let's see how that works.
Baby steps, right?
And that makes me think that with Venmo and other ways to donate, we could do Facebook Live concerts and have lots of different people playing music, and then people donate like a mini telethon or something.
Well, absolutely.
We could do
Great.
like silent auction things online or something.
That's right.
Yeah, we have a whole nother box to think about now with all the online social distancing. So we don't have much time left. Let's go into, I'd like to go down the line, and I'll let you volunteer in the beginning. And I want to hear from everybody. And I know we heard from our Rotaractors because I put them on the spot early, but name some of your projects that you have done. I'll start it off with one of my favorites ever was the the White Sands, Alamogordo Club, and the Tularosa Club did their wine fest every year, and I was one of the co-coordinators for that, and it was just a blast. We had a lot of input, but then it kind of dwindled up. Less Rotarians got involved and things like that, but it ended up raising a lot of money for all three clubs, and we got to all work together, so that was a good one. Who's volunteering?
I'll go.
Thank you, Eric.
So Clovis, the long-running project has been facilitating the Soapbox Derby, making sure that we do the shipping, that we set everything up, we facilitate it. I was actually a Soapbox Derby kid. I got to go to nationals from the club that I'm now a member of when I was in the 5th grade. So that's a big one. And like I said, we're going to continue our Painting our Better Story as well, just to get those kids involved. Most of our projects tend to revolve around what we can do for the kids in our community.
In Alamogordo, we used our matching funds and raised matching funds, and we took, Kathy, was it the 4th graders to the Flickinger Center so they could see a performance?
Oh, actually K through 12. So
K through 12.
This year, obviously, I'm sorry, Pat, I'm stealing your story.
Yeah, that's right, K through 12. And we were able to negotiate with the people that were putting on a show earlier or in the evening, and they would do like a kids performance, kind of a short performance, but we exposed all the kids to the arts, and especially in Tularosa, where they don't have any band or music programs.
It's pretty cool. Thanks, Pat, for sharing that.
Definitely, thank you. So how about some of your events that might be tailored towards our Rotaractors that are so willing to listen? I can see them both attentive and everything. Anybody? I'll tell you, I'll lead up to somebody was going. Go ahead.
Well, okay, Ann, West El Paso.
Hi, Ann.
This is a project I have some passion for, and we haven't done it yet. We're known for our 4th of July parade, and then the partnering with First Tee. But what we're trying to do is expand and work with other clubs, other organizations, and participate perhaps in even their projects where we, provide what's needed. And what I'd like to see us do, and Rotaract would fit into this very well is the food bank needs a lot of volunteers. And I used to work for a company that we volunteered at the food bank, and you have a designated time to go and you're trained by the food bank. I'm a trained can sorter. And there's all different level of projects, including, you know, levels where you can sit down. Some of them involved a lot of physical labor and can sorters. So it was amazing how many cans were rejected. So,
Really?
yeah, that would lend itself. That's a project that I think is easy to get going. Because the main thing is that you need to commit to a time and for a longer period of time, you know, even if it's just once a quarter, but they need volunteers that show up.
Yeah. And right now during COVID, people are hungry. It's really an important project for all of us,
Yes.
wherever we are.
I totally agree. Some other projects.
Okay, in Cruces Rio Grande, our main project is, I guess the dictionary project. We've been providing dictionaries to all third graders. Then we have our Christmas time project where we raise funds throughout the year to do Dress the Child. And I think last year, we're able to dress like 550 children.
Right.
Then the other big one that a lot of people participate in is an annual yard sale where we gather everything from furniture to clothing throughout the year, stored in semi-trailers, and then bring it all into a central point downtown and have a huge yard sale.
And TRC Club has done that before too. And, you know, we had a business owner downtown and he had a little empty spot and we stored it all right there and pulled it out in the middle of downtown when it was time.
Yeah.
So, but I know Las Cruces, theirs is huge. They have a huge yard sale. Someone else.
Rotary Club of El Paso has a lot of projects, as you all know, but one of the neatest one is we called it ramp building. And it's building ramps for people who are in wheelchairs or who are unable to walk. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's like 79 ramps have been built in the area over the last 10 years, I think. And I know that what Ann was saying, that our club is getting involved with the Kelly Center for Hunger. We're starting to do that as well this time. So very exciting time.
Great. Yeah, I remember seeing the ramps were set up at the last district conference. They had it all set up for District Governor Linda to walk up on stage on every time. So that was neat to see those.
Renee?
Who else? Yes.
Did El Paso Camino Real collaborate, or did Karen already mention anything, or no?
Pardon me?
Can I mention some of the projects that we're working on, or did Karen already mention it?
No. Go ahead.
Sorry, we're in the middle of of a couple of things, but I'm here. So right now we're working with the Secret Heart Church, which is in the Segundo Barrio, which is the poorest zip code in the United States. And we're providing food pantries for the elderly. So we're doing that every week. On Thursday, the church sets up the food pantries, and then we distribute them on Fridays. So there's an opportunity to collaborate either on the packaging or the presenting of the food pantries. We also have the heart surgery program in Chihuahua. 47 kids have been supported. And right now we have in Anapra, the Casa Soles, as you know, because of COVID, the center has been closed since March. So we're providing food pantries for the families. So we're doing that every Wednesday in Juarez. So those are some of the programs that we have. And I heard about the golf tournament. We just had our golf tournament about 3 weeks ago. And we had a really good turnout. It was sold out. So if anybody would like tips, let me know, and we'll be glad to share our story.
Renee,
Great, thank you. Yes, Jeff.
we have a couple minutes left. There's one thing I wanted to mention, especially to the presidents-elect that are on this. Someone had mentioned that I do a lot of strategic planning, which is true. It's a passion. And Rotary International has done a lot over the last few years, especially in helping us with goal setting and kind of focusing on what's important. And I would argue maybe one of the most important goals for clubs to be tracking, besides, let's say, membership, is volunteer hours for service projects.
Mm-hmm.
It really does reflect engagement. And it is something that has to be entered in manually because our eye's not going to know. But it really is an important indicator of how engaged the club is to see, how we're doing in terms of volunteer hours and what kinds of projects we're working on. So for the presidents-elect out there, if that was not something that you're familiar with, you'll learn a lot about goal setting and things like the volunteer hours and the other key measures.
Thank you, Jeff. And the important part of that, and most of the clubs will have, if you have 30 members, 40 members, there's probably either 5 or 10 people that do everything. They'll volunteer for everything, they'll show up for everything, and they'll help with anything. But those 5 people alone can put a lot of volunteer hours in through the year. So yeah, as Jeff mentioned, and I had a little note here to say that. So I think if does anybody have any comments or questions that you want to learn, you want to hear more about anything that we have gone through today? Headlights, deer in headlights.
Renee, I would just point out then that you did post the link for the, remind everyone about the link for the survey, if you'll go to chat.
I did, and I attempted to email it as well, so I'm hoping you will have one or the other of that. I'll take the link and I will reply to all, and I have the list of emails.
Okay.
And I'll send a separate email, so if you get it 3 times, I apologize, but I was hoping to get it to you, right before we finish, so that there wasn't too much follow-up. Don't forget, for those of you who are here, and one of the calls that I put out to the LGs and AGs and to the club presidents and president-elect was, please take the time to select at least 2 members of your club, 2 more members, because you guys are important as well to get trained, and ask them if they'd be willing, and invite them to be attend the next RLI. Excuse me. And don't forget, those of you who are here, to watch for part 2. And we hope to, excuse me, frog in my throat. We hope to see you all soon at part 2. I know that I'll get with Kathy and we'll be planning that one as well. And we hope to increase your effectiveness in Rotary, and I hope that you all feel energized. I know that I was so thrilled my first time, and ready to do it again. And hopefully when we can meet in person, we can do it that way as well. So Kathy, do you have anything?
Nope, but it's good to meet y'all today, and we look forward to seeing you for part 2. So thanks everyone.
May I say something real fast, Renee? Sorry.
Of course.
Sorry,
Hector,
just
go
a
ahead.
reminder to everybody, we just launched, the district launched the Rotarian of the Month, Super Rotarian of the Month. So please don't forget to nominate your colleagues. and they're getting recognized in the newsletter and the website. For that person that is being a champion, that is giving the hours, just send us a brief description of why you consider that they're doing, an outstanding job. And thank you so much for everything y'all are doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for putting that in there.
And
How about Jeff? Do you have anything, Jeff?
Nope, just thank you, everyone, and I hope the rest of your day is Zoomless.
I will.
And may I quickly, before we say goodbye,
Madam District Governor, yes, I was holding the best.
thank you. Well, first of all, thank you to Kathy and Renee and Jeff for putting this together and guiding us through it so well. And for all our presenters, Bruce, you're still there, yes. Everyone did a great job. I think that RLI is getting better and better on Zoom. Those of you who've done one before will feel the difference. It's getting smoother and more interactive. Thank you to everyone who came and gave up a big chunk of your Saturday for this. And to each of you, thank you for the difference you're making for your club, for your community, and for our world. Thank you for being Rotarians and Rotaractors.
Adios, y'all.
Adios. Till the next
They're
time.
all
Till the next time.
Thank y'all. Good luck, Rotaractors, on your event. Bye.
Happy birthday to the little one.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.
See you, Barry.